It is Monday, July 27, 2026. The State Department hits a re-emerged Iranian financier tied to the Revolutionary Guard with new sanctions. Washington moves to dismantle Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas financial networks. And a new reciprocal trade agreement between the United States and Jordan sets fresh rules on tariffs, labor, and digital trade. Here are the day's top stories. The State Department announced Thursday it is sanctioning a network run by Iranian financier Babak Zanjani for enabling the Iranian regime to evade sanctions and finance destabilizing activities, including support for the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The action targets 4 individuals and 9 entities tied to Zanjani's operations, taken under Executive Order 13,902, and follows Iran's recent attacks on commercial vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. Zanjani previously received a death sentence in Iran for embezzlement before re-emerging as a regime-linked financier. The State Department says he demonstrates the lengths Iranian state-affiliated elites will go to preserve access to the international financial system while enriching themselves. Officials call Iran the world's leading state sponsor of terror, saying the regime has used the IRGC to foment regional instability for more than 40 years. The State Department is urging governments and financial institutions worldwide not to engage with entities connected to Zanjani or the broader networks that prop up Iran's security apparatus. Why it matters. The designation squeezes a key financial pipeline propping up the IRGC at a moment of heightened tension across the Middle East, signaling Washington intends to keep targeting Iran's revenue streams. The State Department also announced Wednesday it is designating a senior UK-based Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood official, along with 3 additional individuals and 3 entities based outside Egypt, for providing material support to Hamas. The action was taken under Executive Order 13,224, the government's primary counterterrorism sanctions authority. Officials described the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas as running front organizations that use charitable facades and underground networks to move funds across jurisdictions in support of terrorism. The department says the action is part of a broader effort described in the U.S. counterterrorism strategy to dismantle the financial infrastructure sustaining both groups. Officials say the designations expose how charitable-sounding front groups disguise the movement of funds that ultimately support terrorism. Why it matters. Cutting off these funding channels directly limits resources available to Hamas, reinforcing the administration's broader counterterrorism financing campaign in the region. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced Wednesday additional sanctions targeting the Cuban government, designating 9 entities and 2 individuals tied to the regime's energy, financial, and overseas medical labor sectors. The designations include entities linked to sanctions evasion by the state-run conglomerate GESA, as well as entities and individuals accused of exploiting Cuban medical workers sent abroad. The State Department says the action follows a department report chronicling 7 decades of the regime's subversion efforts. Officials describe the Cuban government as posing a continuing threat to U.S. national security and regional stability. GESA is a U.S.-designated military-run conglomerate that controls large parts of Cuba's economy, and today's designations target entities accused of helping it evade earlier rounds of sanctions. Why it matters. The designations aim to choke off revenue the regime draws from its overseas medical brigades and energy sector, intensifying economic pressure on Havana. Secretary Rubio also unveiled a new global visa restriction policy Wednesday targeting cybercrime and sextortion networks. The policy, issued under Section 212 of the Immigration and Nationality Act, targets individuals responsible for or complicit in cyberscams and sextortion and extends to their immediate family members. The department says scammers defrauded Americans of at least $10 billion in 2024 alone. Officials say American children have been specifically targeted overseas in sextortion schemes, devastating families. The administration says it is deploying sanctions, prosecutions, asset seizures, extradition requests, and international law enforcement cooperation against these networks. Officials say many of the scam operations are orchestrated by transnational criminal organizations based in Asia that lure victims through fake investment and romance schemes before extorting them. Why it matters. Extending visa restrictions to family members marks an expanded enforcement tool aimed at deterring transnational cybercrime targeting American citizens, particularly minors. The White House released the text Tuesday of a new reciprocal trade agreement between the United States and Jordan. The agreement supplements the 2000 U.S.-Jordan Free Trade Agreement, addressing tariffs, agriculture, digital trade, and labor standards. Jordan is required to align its export controls with U.S. sanctions lists and prohibit imports made with forced labor within 5 years of the agreement taking effect. The agreement also bars Jordan from imposing digital services taxes that discriminate against U.S. companies and requires cooperation on investment security screening. It takes effect 60 days after both countries complete their internal approval processes. The agreement also directs U.S. institutions like the Export-Import Bank and the International Development Finance Corporation to consider financing investment in critical sectors of Jordan's economy in coordination with American companies. Why it matters. The deal deepens economic and security alignment with a key Middle East partner, tying Jordan's trade posture more closely to U.S. sanctions and export control policy. Like and subscribe for fact-based news from official government sources only. Leave a comment. Tell us what stories you want to hear.